Welcome everybody to tonight's session on test automation using UiPath Test Suite, the developer series. I'm Diana Gray, and if you want to go to the next slide, we can get started. I'm the Community Marketing Manager for Americas, and I'm here tonight with Atul, Trikha, who is our expert MVP, who will be presenting this session. And if you go to the next slide. So I just wanted to let you know that this is our first UiPath developer meeting. It's in America. So we are starting a group of sessions that we'll be continuing to do. The first session is a group of 4 sessions, but there'll be other topics that we'll do as well. So this one covers test automation part 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's going to be over 4 different weeks, every Tuesday night. For just an hour each night. The other thing I want you to know is that we're looking to have people talk at these sessions, get to know everybody. It's really for you guys to learn about what's happening at UiPath, ask our MVP experts what's going on. So our MVPs will be hosting these sessions and coming up with topics, but we'd love to hear from you on what kind of topics you're interested in. So believe me, it's an interactive session. We also, invite you to ask questions about other community activities that we have. So just feel free to, listen to our topics, but also provide input. Again, we welcome you tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Atul.
Thank you so much, Diana. Hello, everyone. My name is Atul Trikha, and as Diana mentioned, I am the Account Chief Technologist, RPA Architect, and RPA COE Lead for Peloton. I'm also 2022 UiPath MVP and the Columbus Chapter Lead. So I welcome you all in our first one in a line of events that we have created just for developers, and not developers, actually for the whole community. So this is going to be a 4-part series like Diana mentioned. And what we are starting with is we are starting with the building blocks. The first part is today, that's what's happening. And we are going to start with the very basics of test automation, or even before going to test automation, we'll start with the building blocks, and then we will give a test suite product overview. In the next 3 events, you will get familiarized with the family of products for the UiPath Test Suite. We will do a deep dive into the test suite capabilities. And at the last session, we will open for discussion and wrap. And the session part number 3 is going to be totally technical with a hands-on exercise. In part 2, we will be setting up all the environment so that it can help you in doing the assignments and practice and for the part number 3 event. So we have a lot to cover. So without any delay, let's kick off our session for today. So what to expect in this session? Like I mentioned, we will be starting with the very basic building blocks. We will be starting with what is software testing, why software testing is required, what are the typical test types and test levels. We will talk about the continuous testing and the challenges organizations are facing in going into the test automation. And we will be then introducing the UiPath Test Suite. And at the end, we will be covering the test suite and the UiPath automation platform. So what is software testing, right? That is the most important question. Software testing is a process of verifying the software meets a certain requirement and behave as expected. So if you have developed some software, you definitely want to how you will quantify, how you will see that whether that software is a success or not, by firstly determining, verifying that it meets a certain requirement and also behaves as expected, right? And when we are talking about requirements, we can differentiate requirements into 2 types. One is called the functional requirement, and the second is non-functional requirement. When I talk about functional requirement, let's take example here. Let's say we have a login screen. My expectation is a requirement is when the users enter a username and a password and click on the login button, right? The expectation here is that it should log the user back into the application, and it should show the dashboard or the respective account profile. So that is what is called a functional requirement, where I am the application is supposed to follow or do a expected behavior. When I talk about a non-functional requirement, I'm referring to a place. Let's say I'm in the same login functionality. In the functional requirement, we verify that the user is able to log in. But can my application can accept 100 users logging at the same time, right? Or do this application has all the auditing or all the PII requirement, right? So those requirements are categorized as the non-functional requirements. Excuse me. Now, why software testing is necessary, right? We discuss about what is software testing, but why it is necessary. Software systems are now integral part of our lives, right? I mean, if you will see right now, so many applications, software applications, you must have opened in your mobile phone or your desktop, right? We use apps for home banking. We use apps for ordering food. We use apps for transportation, paying bills, even for our meetings, right? So the rise of digital technologies and emerging business model have fundamentally changed the way we interact with the software product. And with the for the last 3 years, if you will see, due to pandemic, things are more going towards the online side, right? And more and more apps are coming. This phenomena is called the digital disruption. Now think about Uber, a driving service without a single car, right? They don't have any car. Airbnb is an accommodation service without any properties. Their business model is their solo asset, and that asset is called the software. This evolution has made its way into every industry. The software has become number one technology in any kind of business. Every business is a software business, and software failure means failure of a business, right? And that is why software testing is of paramount importance. And that's why we require software testing. Now, how does a typical traditional process looks like, right? So let's talk about that. There are 5 phases. One is called the plan phase. It all starts with SMEs or product owners setting the testing objective. The objectives are often derived by functional or non-functional requirement. The testing approach, the testing schedule, and the success criteria are addressed in this stage. Then comes the design phase. Here, we transform the objective into a list of high-level or prioritized test cases. We prepare test data and identify the test environment. Then comes the implementation phase. We start developing or creating our test cases. We group test cases into test sets, and we build the test environment. Then comes our implementation phase, right? In the implementation phase, then comes the execute phase. In the execute phase, what we do, we actually run the test cases. Sorry, I'm a little behind on clicking on the slide. So the execute phase is where we run test sets according to the test plan. We follow a defined schedule or a test continuously with every code check-in, and we can trigger testing manually or automatically. And then last phase comes the analyze phase. In the analyze phase, what we do is, this is the last stage, and here we collect all the data that we have collected from all the from the execution plan, and when we determine the product, the effectiveness or the quality of our software. So this is how a traditional test process looks like. So what are the test level or the typical test types? What we'll say that test levels are. There are 4 test levels, starting with the, let me show here. Here, if you will see, it starts with the unit testing, right? This is the testing which focus on testing individual code units down to the level of methods and function. And it is typically done by a software developer. And we typically mock objects and environment during the unit testing. Then comes the integration testing. It focuses on the interaction between the components or the system. We verify if the interfaces between the components are designed as specified. And this is also normally done by the software developer. And then comes the system testing and the acceptance testing. System testing focus on the behavior of entire software system or product. It also referred to as end-to-end testing. It is done probably mostly in a pre-production environment. And at the last comes the acceptance testing. It also deals with the entire software or systems or products. We don't include dev or tester, or instead we use the end user or the stakeholder for doing the acceptance testing. So this is what are the typical test levels. Then comes the test types. So there are different test types. One is the functional testing and non-functional. We have introduced a bit earlier. Then comes the black box and the white box testing. The main difference between the two is the visibility and access of the tester to the actual implementation. In the black box testing, solo focus is on providing a certain input and verifying the output. It is conducted by the tester, and normally system and acceptance testing falls into this criteria. The white box testing provides a certain amount of access to the source code to the tester. It is normally, when I'm saying tester, normally this white box testing is conducted by a developer, and it takes the unit and the integration testing. And then comes the manual testing and the automated testing. At first glance, if you will see, or if you will think about, manual testing is run by a person. Automated testing is something run by an unattended robot, or right. But when we when we do a closer look, we'll discover that there is a complex layer in each of them. Now, let's look at the manual testing. There are two things here in the manual testing. One is called the scripted manual test, and then one other is exploratory manual testing or exploratory testing. In the scripted manual test, we have predefined step of operation followed by a specific verification steps. These type of testing is intended to be executed the same way every time it is performed, because we have scripted it, right? I mean, these are the manual redundant step. And that is where, if you know the very basics of RPA, anything that is repetitive in nature, we should always look towards in automating it. So just put this point on a side for a minute. These are the scripted testing is something a user is doing on a repetitive basis. And then is the exploratory testing. It is still manually performed, but it typically provides a high level charter. And then at this level, the tester is totally free to explore in details and however he wants to explore the system. Now comes the automated testing. Automated testing is at a high level of two types. We can definitely go into more details, but one is that the UI testing and the API testing. And if you will look at a high level concept about the continuous testing, the typical continuous testing focus more on the UI testing. And we are going to cover a little bit of both because that is what mainly we are going to talk about is the automated testing. Now, we have talked about the manual testing. We just talked about the scripted manual test, right? And in a good application, and if the application has an n number of test cases, right? And in a large enterprise grade applications, there are thousands of test cases, right? So what are the, like, I mean, with those testing, if we will continue to use our manual tester, what will happen? We have seen that with the doing our like a normal falling sorry. So with the use of the manual tester, there is 50% decline in the productivity growth, because you are doing the same thing again and again, and you are spending billions of hours on a day-to-day basis for doing this manual test. But why it is being increased? If you will see, in the last 4 years, the apps have grown 70%. We talked about the digital disruptions, right? So it is becoming impossible nowadays. I will not say impossible, very hard to continue for an enterprise grade application to continue follow the manual processing, the manual testing process. So we definitely needs automation testing. But is it easy? I'll say no. What are the factors that are preventing the automation? That's what we are going to do next. We are going to discuss about what are the factors that are preventing the automation. The first factor is maintenance. The applications are changing at a very fast rate. Nowadays, we are all into the agile world, right? I mean, agility is so important, and all the even the SDLC is now going towards the agile methodology, right? So changes are bound to happen. So sometimes it's not the challenges that organization are facing is there are not enough, they cannot keep with the rate of application changes. That is the number one challenge. The complexity of the applications to write complex test cases, that is the number, that is another reason for that is preventing the automation. Governance, there is no standard way of writing the test cases. We don't have skilled developers or automation engineers to write test cases. And then last, we'll say that we have either no tools or there are too many tools for doing the testing that is preventing. These are the top five, like what I'll say that scaling inhibitors, and these come from the World Quality Report of 2021-2022. Now, we discussed about the challenges. Now let's take a look here at in a normal, let's say if we don't do testing, okay, we continue doing the manual testing, or we don't do a continuous testing, we will keep the traditional flow here. What will happen? This diagram shows that if you will not follow the testing continuously, what is going to happen, or not do it proactively, all the issues will surface at the production. And we know that if any issues, the maintenance, the cost of fixing any defect in production is far more than fixing the defect at the development stage, right? So we need to do what we call a shift left approach. Means we need to fix the issues as soon as possible, right? So with doing that, if you will see here, I'll change my, this is what, if you will go back one slide, all the issues we are detecting here, no matter whether it's an application issue, environment issue, all the issues at occurring here at the business, which are highly, which are very costly to fix. But in the proposed stage, what we are saying is if we will try to shift the focus left side, means fix the defect as soon as possible. That is where it will be more helpful and low, it will be easy to fix, and cost, it will cost less in fixing at the development stage. So that leads to the discussion. We are going our next topic of continuous testing. We discussed about what is software testing, why it is required. We talked about the different levels and type of testing. We discussed about we need software testing, but what are the impediments for implementing the automation. And we talked about how difficult or how costly if the issues are not fixed where they belong, for as early as possible. So what is continuous testing? The term continuous testing suggests that testing should be seen as an isolated, disconnected island in the software delivery pipeline anymore. It rather suggests that software testing should be performed at any time, everywhere, in any form, by the automated, manual or exploratory testing. Okay, now look at this slide. Originally, the term continuous testing referred to the ability of executing automated tests as part of our software delivery pipeline to continuously obtain quality related information about the software. But nowadays, continuous testing referred to the diffusion of software testing from the distinct as well as the siloed pre-release phase to an ongoing continuous activity. What does that mean? It means we need to do testing at each and every phase wherever is possible, right? And if you will look into the next diagram, we are talking about the continuous testing. It is following both the shift left, which means the proactive, as well as the shift right approach. But what is the shift left and shift right, right? We talked briefly about the shift left approach, where we talked about we should start testing as soon as possible. So shift left is the practice of moving testing, quality, and performance evaluation early in the software development process. Thus, the process of shifting to the left side of the DevOps cycle. This concept has become increasingly important as team faces pressure to deliver software faster and more frequent with higher quality, right? We are talking about agile here. Shift left speeds up the development efficiency and reduce the cost by detecting and addressing software defects early in the development phase. This is what we just discussed about, right? And then what is shift right? Shift right is the practice of performing testing, quality, and performance evaluation in the production under the real world conditions. That is basically what is the shift right approach is. So we talked about shift left, we talked about shift right approach. Okay, we have so many things we covered. We got the problem statement, right? But how we can empower our test team with all the tools they need to manage, automate, distribute, and execute their work, right? This is all we are talking about. We are talking about all the problem statement. But what is the answer? How we can build resilient automation, how we can proactively manage quality to prevent the production disruption, how we can continuously test to uncover and fix underlying issues, right? These are the four questions that comes in our mind when we look into the topics that we have discussed. So what is the answer, right? And that brings to the topic about UiPath Test Suite. So this is the introduction about the test suite. A UiPath Test Suite is the answer and why. Let's cover that one. So what is UiPath Test Suite? UiPath Test Suite combines the world-leading RPA technology with the best of breed testing capability to sustainably accelerate scaling through proactive testing, cross on enterprise collaboration, and a consistent approach to create and deploy automation. That is what a UiPath Test Suite is all about. We talk about proactive testing, we talk about cross enterprise collaboration, and we talked about a consistent approach, a standard approach. And if you will, if you remember, like previously we discussed about, these are couple of the impediments that were stopping the automation, right? And these are what the UiPath Test Suite gives us. With UiPath Test Suite, you can revolutionize automated testing for your software, automation, and QA teams with the Test Suite, the resilient testing product portfolio powered by the UiPath automation platform. Leveraged production grade, low code automation, and AI powered tools to automate testing for any technology while still managing your test case. So we are talking about the test suite using a low code automation platform. It has all the tools. Nowadays, it's not automation, right? We are trying moving towards the intelligent automation nowadays, right? And that is where with the UiPath, the automation platform, you will see as we will move forward, all these AI, ML, computer visions. We are going to discuss all these topics and how we will discuss and take a look that UiPath Test Suites cover these is integrate with these this intelligent automation. So if you will look a little bit more close towards the UiPath Test Suite, it has four main components, right? I mean, if you will see here, we have the Test Manager Hub, we have the UiPath Studio, we have the Test Manager, UiPath Orchestrator, and then we have the robots. We have also shown an integration with the different ALM tools, and then we have shown CI/CD with the Jenkins and other tools, right? So, but at a high level, let me go back, sorry. So at a high level, the UiPath Test Suite consists of four components. First, to kickstart or proactively manage quality to prevent production disruption is with the UiPath Test Manager. Kickstart the testing process by planning and monitoring tests for any your application or automation with full requirement traceability, visual logging. Test Manager is the one that enables you to do all of those things together. And in the next part two, we are going to take a deep dive into the test manager. But this is the one which is giving you the requirement traceability. This is the tool which integrates with your ALM tools, and it has its by its own. You can either integrate with like any existing tools like Jira or Azure DevOps, or it also provides a complete requirement traceability. Then you have the studio, right? Where we are going to create our where automation or our test cases, right? That brings to the UiPath Studio. This is the second important component about the test suite. Whether you are testing RPA workflow, whether you are creating your web apps or window apps automation, whether you are talking about SAP, Citrix, or mobile, Studio has you covered it all. It provides a low code interface. It has the capability to synthetically generate test data and hundreds of pre-built activities. So that is where all the fun or all the fun of the automation begins. And this is the platform where you are going to create your test cases. So we covered about Studio, we covered about Test Manager, and then we need to continuously test to uncover and fix underlying issue with UiPath Orchestrator. With Orchestrator, UiPath it is the central control system. That is where you are organizing your test cases, you are scheduling your test cases, you are storing your dynamic test data, and that is where you are analyzing detailed result of your test execution. And that is what UiPath Orchestrator gives you. This is the third component or the product for the UiPath Test Suite. The last is the test robots, right? By leveraging UiPath test robots, you can build a team of dedicated robots to run tests, perform common tasks, and report back anytime you want them to be. Basically, these are what we call as the digital worker, right? So there are digital testers now, and if we talk about the UiPath test suite. So this is at a high level the four components about the UiPath test suite. And I know it may be a little overwhelming for those who are very new to the UiPath or even new to the test automation. But please stay with me. This is just the beginning. I mentioned these are the basic or the building blocks. When we will go at this stage, you just simply understand what are the high main topics or the words we are highlighting. And as we will move forward in our part 2 and part 3, we are going to do a hands-on exercise, and we will go more deep and cover each of those topics in details with the practical examples. So now we discussed about the UiPath Test Suite product architecture. Now let's take a look how the UiPath Test Suite benefit those who create and depends on the automation, right? There are three main players. One is the RPA team, the next is the test team, and then there are the leaders, right? So how UiPath Test Suite helps the RPA developer? UiPath Test Suite helps the RPA developer by building more, test better, and fix never. And when I say fix never, means hardly ever. And what does that mean? It means like the UiPath Test Suite helps the RPA developer, to create test automation faster. How? By using the low code interface, right? And with all the hundreds of pre-built components, we are not writing code here, right? I mean, there's hardly in my 6 years of experience, I remember there are only couple of times I need to write some code. Those are in exception cases, but most of the time we are all dragging and dropping. And when I'm talking about code, it is not like something like I'm writing 100 lines of code. It may be sometimes a string dot format, or maybe a few invoke code that cannot be handled by exception scenarios. So that is the main advantage here. I'm focusing more on the decisions or the logic rather than focusing on the syntax. That is where the low code interface UiPath Test Suite provides. Then after doing that, the test suite also give us, it generates the test data. You can create data for your test, synthetically create test data in your UiPath Test Suite, right? Not only that, with the UiPath Test Suite, you can share your automation. Let's say if I've done an automation for logging into an application, right? Now I can use the same workflow which I have created for my automation and convert that into a test case. That is the beauty of Test Suite. and that is how it is going to help the RPA developer. So these are a couple of the points that how the UiPath test suite helps the RPA team. Now, how it is going to help the test team, right? It provides all the tools or the AI enabled automation and innovations to the tester, which means that now with the help of UiPath test suite, you can, I mean, when I'm saying quoting it, that you can actually automate any software application, whether it's Windows, web, SAP, you're talking about legacy application. So that is one thing that it provides to the tester. We don't need to now restrict ourselves. Virtually any software application is can be automated now, right? So the other thing we talked about, similar like they you can synthetically generate test data, right? And you can also enforce your automation standards. It provides rules definitely to create rules and definitions, right? And that is what another advantage of the test suite is. Then by doing that, I mean, anything we talked about, the repetitive or the mundane task, right? I mean, with the UiPath test suite, you don't need to now rely on doing those manual tasks. You can simply create automation or the with the use of test suite. Not only that, test suite provides you the option to migrate your existing test cases, and then these it with the test suites you can create reusable libraries. So these are some of the advantages of test suite for the test team. And at the last, we will talk about the last layer, which is the transformation leader. It provides a centralized place where you can manage your automation. And then there are so many other things like scalability and how we can maintain like the cross-functional business. So all these things comes as part of the UiPath test suite that is helping the transformation leaders also. So what are the capabilities of the UiPath test suite covers? I'm keep talking about it has so many things, but let's take a look about what are the different top industries capability that UiPath test suites covers. It covers the RPA testing because the foundation of the test suite is RPA itself, right? We talked about it is the UiPath test suite is basically starts with RPA, but that is where it is becoming important that when we are writing automation, we should also have some way to test that automation, and that's where the UiPath top capability starts with the RPA testing. Then you can automate we talked about Windows application, we talked about web application. You can use SAP. There are their connectors or there specifically activities available for SAP automation that comes out of the box. Not only that, there are scenarios where you don't need to, I mean, you don't have like you have to do the API testing also. So UiPath also supports, test suite also supports the API automation. We talked about briefly about the test management using the test manager. So you can have it has the full requirement traceability, as well as you can integrate with other ALM tools. And then we talked about at a high level about the data management. It provides that. And then data driven, all the test cases which we are going to cover, the test cases that you are creating are all follow a specific pattern, and they are all, you can configure them to be a data driven test cases. So all these are the top capabilities the UiPath test offers, and we will be covering that. Now, the UiPath test suite and platform, if you will see here, I mean, we talked about different team players. So UiPath test suite enterprise is supports the enterprise automation. There is everything. There is something. There is some pieces. There are capabilities for everyone here, right? I mean, we are for the development team when they are doing the test or the automation, they have the capability to create RPA testing. Similar way for any kind of automation, whether it's the development or by the IT automation or the any process automation, you can follow by the RPA testing, and then you can share your automations or the libraries across the platform. And then it comes to the integration, where this UiPath test suites again can go forward with the traditional, like other software, right? So we know that UiPath platform has so many capabilities. It has process mining, task capture. We talked about we have the computer visions. We have like the document understanding, right? So the UiPath test suite is fully integrated into the UiPath platform. And if time permits, I want to showcase one a use case that covers what I'm saying about showcasing whether how when I'm saying it can be integrated with the UiPath platform. It can also cover the left shift approach. So let's see, I mean, if time permits, I'm going to come back here and give an example of the left shift, as well as the computer vision, and as well as the integration with the UI platform. It will cover that use case will cover the three important topics we have covered. So okay, we talked about so many benefits. We started with the problem statement. We talked about so many benefits about the UiPath test suite, right? But why should we care, right? Or why should you care about? So we already talked about that testing is important, right? I mean, software failure means business failure. And that is where with the test suite, I mean, if you will read some of the reports, Chipotle has achieved 70% reuse between testing and RPA. That is the most one important point with the UiPath test suite. It allows to share and reuse automation components and object, right? That is why we should care. And that is the most important point, or that what I love about the test suite. Um, Whenever you are thinking about okay, why test suite, why UiPath test suite, why not any other tool, right? Because once you start using the UiPath test suite, it automatically enables you or to do the automation, right? And that is the practical use case that I have seen in many of the projects where we started with the test automation. It automatically opens door for us to do the automation, or vice versa, right? That is where the UiPath test suite stands out from the other competitors. Then we talked about uh, providing virtually any automating any applications, whether it's about UI, API, SAP. UiPath test suite covers everything. It is a production grade test suite. And then you can integrate with the DevOps chain tool. And then we have so many, the community is big. We have the UiPath has a community of over 1.5 million users. So anytime you get stuck, anytime you need help, there will be someone from the community that will be able to help you out. But these are not only the factors that you should choose a UiPath test suite. There, the UiPath is named as a leader in IDC market space for worldwide cloud testing vendor assessment. Within this report, the IDC MarketScape recognized UiPath for capitalizing on its RPA technology and dominant position in the enterprise automation market to help enable timely needed coordination and synergy for testing the automations. And that is where the UiPath test suite, UiPath is the leader in automation. And then not only that, there are many tools, many companies which are using test suite. A few of them are mentioned here. And now let me jump into, before I open for question and answer, let me go back. I asked about, can we quickly show a demonstration about, we have covered so many things about, but these are just the basic building blocks. There are 3-4 terms I continuously repeated about: proactively testing, right? We talked about like the same proactively or the shift left. We talked about integration, how UiPath stands out as compared to the other vendors, or how it provides like integrate with the UiPath platform also. So let's take a use case here, right? I mean, let me minimize here. Let me start sharing again. And then let me know, I will start sharing my studio, and let me know whether you are able to see that or not.
Okay.
I'll pause. Sorry, I'll stop for a minute here, and I'll start. How can I? Okay, pause share, stop share. Let me start sharing again. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take example here. This is the platform that we are going to discuss in our next session. This is what we talked about at a high level is the studio, UiPath Studio, where all the automation magic begins. And what I want to cover here is let's start with a use case here, right? You will say that I talked about proactive testing or the shift left approach, or I talked about how it is different, right? Let's take a scenario here. Now, in my project or in any actually software development, let's say we are developing a application where you have to apply for a loan, right? So how it starts with, we will just capture all the requirements. Okay, we as part of the loan application, we need to capture maybe the certain fields, right? It can be email or a loan amount or some loan term, your annual income and your age. So these are in the very initial phase during the not even the design, during the initial requirement phase, we gather all this requirement, and then we give this requirement to once we finalize this requirement, these requirement we give it to our UX designer, right? And then the UX designer say that, okay, this is the screen you should develop for your application, for the loan application. And this is just an image that he has provided to for us, right? And normally in a typical SDLC, this application will go back to the front end developer. There they will develop this whole UX, and then only it will allow us to write test cases, right? But with the UiPath Test Suite, what if I'll tell you that with this image itself, this is JPG image, if you will see here, with this image, I can actually start creating my test cases and I will be able to reuse it. How? Let's take a look here. So this is the studio. What I'm going to do is I will just create a blank sequence here, and where I am, let's call this demo. Now, the first point here to cover is we talked about the integration with the we talked about AI capabilities, or we used buzzwords, but how to use that. Let's see the capability of UiPath Test Suite as a computer vision. What it will do is, with this image, now what I'm going to do is I can start creating my test case. I don't need to wait for the front end developer to actually create this application. I'll start recording here, and the next concept this demo will cover is when I'm talking about not writing a single line of code, how that can be done. I'll start recording here, and then you will see here, this will start. What happened? Yeah. So the computer vision will start looking into detecting the elements. So here, the computer vision start detecting my first element. This goes here, and I will write some email here, let's say. That comes my second loan amount. Then comes my loan term. What happened here? Why my computer just froze? Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened to my computer here. Let me see if I need to. Just give me 1 second. Let's start again. Okay. So I'm still on the app. I have on the image. There's no UI that has been developed so far, right? And if you see here with this button, let me go save and exit. It may create some additional clicks because I clicked on some screen couple of times. If you will see here, this has already created all the automation for me right from the input box, right from where I entered my username. I have entered let me delete this one. And because I was clicking multiple times in many screens, so here, let me go back and move a couple of screens down here because I have to stop for some issue here in between. Okay, and this happens sometimes, that's okay. Okay, so we entered the username, we entered this one, and then we entered this screen. Let's delete this one, we don't need this one, and input, and then at the last we entered this one. So now you will see here with this just an image, I have able to create a automation, right? And what I need to do, this automation will not work, right? But what will happen is now I have a test case ready. The minute I will get the actual screen here, right? Let's say now the UiPath or the UX team has come up with the automation, right? Let me go to the tool here. So the tool here is, where is the tool? Let's go back to the actual application now, your bank, and there is the apply now. Not this one, where is the loan? There is a loan, products and loans, yes, apply for a loan. So this is the application which is actually there. And this is what was available to me when we decided that this is something we are going to develop. But I don't need to wait till this application is developed. I have created my test cases with just an image, which the awesome UX team has given to me. And now once the application is ready, all I need to do is simply go here and click edit selector. And what it will do is, let me close this now, edit selector. And now what it will do is I will simply point into, let me move that into a different screen here so that I can show you what I'm doing is I'm actually clicking on the edit selector on this window. And now I am going to give this screen to just point the screen, indicate element to this screen. That's it. Once I give this thing, my application or my test automation is all ready to go. I can quickly show that also. Hopefully it will work. It happened many times whenever doing a demo, some things always stops. So hopefully it should work. Yep. See, with the image itself, now we have created the automation. And that is where the beauty of the test suite lies. I mean, not only it provides, we have covered with this demo, the example of doing a proactive automation means we are ahead of the game. We are not waiting for the UX team to finish their developing their application. We have started with just the image of that particular application. And as soon as the application becomes available, how easy it is to change by simply clicking on changing the descriptor. We have also covered how easy it's to do automation, right? In this case, I'm not even actually drag and drop anything. I simply use the record button to record all the steps here, right? And we will cover how easy after this one is to convert this workflow and reuse this workflow into test automation. So all those good things are coming in our next session. This is just a preview of what to expect in our sessions. We have seen the capability at a very high level, but believe me, in the next couple of parts, so many things to cover, and you are really going to love what this UiPath Test Suite has to offer to each and every one. With that note, I will be opening for any questions, answers, and if there are too many technical questions, you can always reach me back, or you can reach back to Dinah. And then there are many questions. If you have any advanced question, I'll suggest if you are planning to join the subsequent session, the fourth part is all about covering and opening the session for everyone. We will be discussing just open round, like, I mean, if you have any use case that you're working on, and then that is all we are going to cover on part fourth. So that is what I have, Dana. I will take a pause here, and we'll open for question and answers. And if you have to add anything.
Sure. So, no, great job, Atul. Thank you for presenting tonight. We do have a question from Jill. She said Azure DevOps is listed on the left side and also as future, and she'd like to understand the difference of what is in place now versus the future. And you're on mute, Atul.
Which slide we are talking about? This one? And if it is there, I mean, initially when the UiPath Test Suite, maybe I have some old screenshot, but when the UiPath Test Suite started, it initially provided the integration with Jira, but now those Azure DevOps and more integrations coming. If there is something which is showing future Azure DevOps as future, it may be just an old screen, but I have recently integrated Test Manager with DevOps, and it's working absolutely fine. Though I have some challenge that I'm going to cover in our next session, but if you're referring to some image, then I apologize for the old screenshot. But if you can point me, and that will be great.
Yeah, Jill, feel free to take yourself off mute if this isn't the slide, or if you need more clarification.
Oh yeah, this is the future integration. Yeah, maybe this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, I got it. Yeah, so my apologies. So these are not future. Azure DevOps is already available, and even like, I mean, the Source Labs, I have Source Labs and APM. So my apologies here. I'll modify the slides.
Yeah, and then when Joe had a question, when using a screenshot without a live application, what happens when the application changes a label for input?
So so if you will see, this is what, like, I mean, let's go back here, right? I mean, let me go back here to the properties. So this is just example, but if you will go more, there are so many, like, I mean, especially the modern approach of using those, detecting those elements. There is a unified platform that runs behind the scene. Not only it detects the computer here in this computer vision, we are also defining the anchor with each element. If you will see, if I can show you the screen here, we have also defined the anchor, right? So I mean, there are chances, like, I mean, when even those label of a particular field is getting changed, it will detect by the computer vision, because there are multiple anchors along which it relies on. But and outside this one also, I mean, with the modern approach, there are fuzzy logic, there are image-based system, there are selector-based system. So UiPath Test Suite, this is just an example of computer vision, but when you actually start using, and let me see if I can show you that also quickly. But let's go back here in this use case, and let
Hey,
me,
Atul.
yes, please, sir.
It's Joe that asked the question. I'm just wondering if you use the anchor to another element on the screen, if the label changed, but the anchor was still the same, would it be able to locate that input box?
So let me open this one. So you are saying that, let's say the anchor for the email address is email address of the requester, right? This is the
Right.
anchor, and this is the text box, right? So which one, the email address for the requester is changing?
So let's say the where it says enter email address, let's say that said enter some other address.
Okay.
But your anchor stayed the same. Would it be able to locate that input box where it says enter email address if that text changed?
It should. and we can test it right away also. But I mean, in my opinion, I have honestly not tested this right away, but it should work. I mean, I'm very positive that it should work. With the computer vision, I have not tried so many times. I mostly prefer the modern approach, but which has three fallback mechanism: image or selector or fuzzy logic. With the computer vision, I didn't try too much, but if you are fine, I can get back on this one. It should work, but I need to test it that out.
Yep, that's fine. Thanks.
Any more questions?
Yeah, please feel free to take yourself off mute and ask any questions. Again, this isn't a really open forum, you guys. It's really for you. We have several MVPs on the call. So
And if any other MVP also would like to answer the previous question, I will be more than happy. If somebody has done a lot of with the computer vision, meanwhile, I'll see if I can quickly see if I can do that.
I did have one additional question that I didn't post in the chat. Here's a scenario. So if we have an application that's currently on premise, and that application is going to be moved to the cloud, what we want to ensure is that the certain pages in the application, when they move to the cloud, we didn't lose any data, and the look and the feel of those pages stayed exactly the same after the application was moved to the cloud. Is there a way using UiPath that we could compare the before, which is the on-premise, to what the actual is, which would be the cloud, to say, do we have the same data? Is, maybe the same links are on page one, those same links are on page one in the cloud. Is there a way to do that?
So not out of the box I'm aware of, but again, if I have to design that, for example, let's say if my page has, let's say 5 labels on my application, I want to ensure that all these fields are coming as is and all the links are there. I will be more designing it by detecting all those elements or those images, not anything out of the box. Like I know that there are some tools where they provide out of the box image to image comparison. So that capability, again, MVPs, if you are aware of that feature, I'm not aware that feature comes out of the box with UiPath, where you can compare two images or compare two things simultaneously. Not out of the box, but it does not hold in facilitating that capability using the design of that automation.
And a tool, is there a tool in UiPath that can scrape the elements off of a single page rather
Yes,
quickly?
I mean, oh,
Okay.
right. I mean, especially with the modern approach. Let me, so with the modern approach, actually, I was about to showcase that one. With the modern approach, when you point into a single page, what it will do is it gives you like a wizard, which will tell you that, do you want to scrape all the elements in this page? And the moment you do that, it will create a nice object repository for you. Let me show that. I mean, I really want to demonstrate that one. Let's see if we can do that quickly. So let's say this is my page. I'm on this page, and let's say I want to start the recording here. So not with this feature. I think that is with the not with the recording. It is with the coming with the application elements, object behavior, object repository. I think we are object. I know that can be done. We are just 1 minute top over the meeting, but when with the modern behavior, you will be able to do that. The moment you will started adding those screens, let's say, I mean, if we can indicate screen here, if it works. See, so this is where it will create the screen, and then it will, when we'll start capturing the elements, it will capture element. Let's see if this is the one. capture all elements. If you will see here, when I say
Yeah.
capture all elements, it will automatically now start detecting all the elements within screen. So that, see, this is the what I was talking about. So with this
Okay.
one click, you can select all, but be a little bit careful here. What it will do, if you will see here, it will also highlight a couple of these elements, like come in this back button or this one. Sometimes you don't want to do that. Like for example, this is also detecting the cancel button, which is coming for the recorder. So you can always deselect a couple of these elements by simply clicking like, I don't want this element, or I don't want this element.
And I
And
can
then,
see there looks like there's a lot of squares at the top, the very top of the
yeah, those are
page.
not selected. These are the elements it detected, but it has
Okay.
not captured that. Anything which is like dotted, it has not captured that one. Anything which is like a solid
Gotcha.
line is what. And when I'll click capture,
Yep.
now you will see here, it will give me all the things, all the elements in the object repository now. See, all these elements out of 59
Ah,
got added.
okay.
That is what I mean. This is so much fascinating when you start working with the when the UiPath Test Suite started, when or the UiPath started, these features were not there. But from the last 1 year or so, the region has like, I mean, the amount of feature, the capabilities that are coming are totally mind-boggling.
Thanks a lot.
So
Most
Atul,
welcome.
I can help with a couple of the other questions. There is a find image match activity that will look for a corresponding image that's similar to what you provide. So it's called find image matches.
Right, but I think what Jill question is like, can we compare something? For example, that's what I was mentioning. Like, yes, there are activities we can design in such a way. For example, I am aware of a tool called what you called a Lambda, which provides a side-to-side comparison of like what Jill was mentioning. If I have an image, what I want to do is simply drag and drop two images, and at the end, I want to see that whether they two are exactly matching. So some software tools provide that. It does not mean we cannot do in UiPath Test Suite, but this is something which does not comes out of the box. Some capability will you just drop, but you need to rely on the existing activity. Like Diana, you were mentioning, there are find elements. You can use that one. You can use elements to detect those things.
But something like that, if it's an actual file, I would do the direct comparison of the size of the two and a couple of other properties, and I think you could get to it the same way.
Oh, right, and definitely. So, but yeah. So
And
there
then,
are ways.
yeah, on the computer vision question, I think if there is a text change and that's part of the screen scraping because it's an OCR image type method, if that's an application prone to that, I do think there would be issues with computer vision. So I think in those cases where there could be potential label changes, that the traditional method of using selectors would not be an issue. I've had a complete UI change on the front end, not necessarily labels, but the behind the scenes names for those fields remain the same and everything still worked.
Thanks, Tracy. Joe, any questions?
No, and I think we'll learn more once we get into the other sessions. So I've done some preliminary investigating. So some of these screens look a little familiar, but I can't say I've used the product. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to the next sessions as well. So, but that did answer the question. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, and on that note, just remember that next Tuesday night, we're having the second session. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, you can sign up at community.uipath.com. And I just want to ask if anybody else has any questions. Okay. Well, there's lots more to learn. So Atul, thank you for presenting tonight. And Tracy and the other MVPs, thanks for being on the call tonight. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you.
Sure, Dana, just to answer that question, I just tried that one. So it didn't work like I think Tracy was mentioning. So I changed the email text to email only. And that is where I think Tracy already answered that one. I believe it was Tracy. But yes, once you change that element name here, I changed the label. So my automation didn't work after that. So if that is what you were looking for, changing the name here, element not found, I got that error. So with the computer vision,
Right.
it didn't support it, but yes, with what the elements, and I will again, this is one thing which we are, I personally love using the modern approach. With the modern approach, it gives us so many fallback mechanism. There's whole it with fuzzy logic, image based, selector based things. So that is where I always try to tend towards using the modern approach for my automation or test automation. But thank you so much
So
for
yeah,
that.
there's one for
Atul.
everybody. I'd much prefer to use the old-fashioned selectors where I can get in and beat them into submission. You can make them quite generic and not rely on the text in there. And I believe you can still do that by editing the ones that were created with the computer vision. Atul was showing the edit selector in there, and I think if you go in there, you can make them rely more on the DOM object itself.
And you're absolutely right, Brian. I mean, there are situations where I also see, I mean, there are challenges that comes with the modern approach, specifically if I have a dynamic URL. So yes, it's for everyone. Scenario is different, but absolutely bang on there also. I mean, it depends upon use case to use case, but modern, what I love is like, I mean, so many like capture element, which Jill was talking about. It provides those easy wizards to capture all the elements in one go. But there are situations where it fails, like specifically when the selectors are dynamic or the URLs are changing dynamically. But thank you so much for your input and your. So if everyone is fine, Diana, if you're fine, we can call it a day and sign off for today's, and look forward for our part 2.
Before you go, Atul, one more comment on this topic. It's remarkably robust, Joe. This product handles resizing of screens so that if the elements move around, so instead of being beside each other, they're above each other. I've seen just amazing success at keeping right on going.
Okay, yeah, that's good, because for us, a pain point is not creating the automation, but debugging it. So when the tests fail, that's one of the things I'm interested in is, you know, what does it take to debug them, number one, and number two, if you're going and grabbing, I think you guys were mentioning the selectors, and does it grab a bunch of them at one shot and then weigh them? Is there some logic behind the scenes that helps it smartly or intelligently identify an element on the screen when something happens to that element?
I'm going to stay out of this one, Atul.
So there is actually a repair feature. Whenever one of your selectors is broken, there's an obvious red box, so you can see that it's broken. And most of the time there is a repair button where it will try to really self-mend when you click it, that selector, in the case that it's not working anymore, or it will change some of the underlying attributes that are in the selector. So I found it to be really good at mending itself most of the time. Plus, with there being in the modern approach of 3 different ways to select, it does recommend one of those to start with, but it does have the others to fall back on. So I think it's pretty good at having a variety of options and working. Definitely, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen significant improvements in the UI directly for the issues that you were talking about.
So when it does that smart healing or auto healing, does it heal it automatically? And if it does, I think you were mentioning the box. Is there a red box against something that says, hey, we had to use auto healing, we had to change a selector or some identifying piece for that element?
So it has the 3 built in automatically, and I believe it goes directly to the other options. If number 1 doesn't work, just as you're running it, you see that repair choice whenever you're in the development environment and stepping through things or testing a given item. You will see it. It'll tell you immediately whatever you've chosen is red, that's not working now, and then you get those repair options. But there's the whole behind the scenes UI tool where you can look at every attribute, and then that's where you have the complete array of choices for, you know, to add wildcards, to, you know, say the index number changes all the time, and you want to ignore that. There's tons and tons of options where you can put very few attributes and things that likely would not change. Say, you know, the field name of username. Pretty unlikely.
I think, yeah. I think so. It was Joe, right? I'm not sure I did catch it.
Yeah.
Joe. So, right. I mean, the feature, like the auto healing feature, that is what I believe. I'm very positive that feature is coming very soon, and that is what we are going to discuss with our MVPs or even with the product team. But that is the feature I'm also looking for. There are very one or two tools. I think there's a tool called Appwell or some, I forget that tool. That is the only a number of handful of tool which automatically heal your scripts. So like I think Tracy was mentioning, it does not auto heal, but it provides you all the capability where you can see what is going wrong, which element is broken, and you can repair that by giving the right address to the element. But auto healing is something not available, but I'm pretty sure with the amount of changes or the capability that has been coming from the last 6 months or year, that feature is also not far.
Good. And do you, on the site, do you guys have a roadmap of things like that you would say, hey, down the road, these are the things that are queued up to work on?
Want to take that question?
I don't know that that's directly on the website. It may be, but I know that in the product calls that happen pretty regularly, they're definitely giving you visibility. And I know those, I believe those links are out there for sure.
Okay.
So Tracy, can you explain what those protocols are? Are they UiPath Insight?
Yep. So UiPath, I would make sure to sign up for events on the site. So anytime there's a new release, they happen for sure, where they go through all of the features, and they'll also have specific calls about certain tools where you can learn more about the long-term roadmap with the product team. There are a lot of different choices out there, but definitely you can get all the information you want about what's upcoming. They definitely have a solid plan on every piece of the platform.
So that's
Great.
called UiPathInsight.com, right? Where you can sign up.
I would have to double check and make sure, but I think so.
Okay.
Sorry, Diana, I need to drop. I'm really apologize, but I mean, if there's anything I can take offline questions and I can circle back with you. If that is okay with you and everyone.
Yeah, we can address them next week too. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks a million, Atul.
Thank
Great
you so
questions,
much,
Joe.
everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Yep,
Really
thanks.
appreciate it.
Thank you.